Hi, I'm Eric Shaw, and this is the Big Happy Day video series. And today I'm gonna get you up to speed on Tantra and modern Tantra particularly. In my last video, I talked a little bit about Goraknath, who came out of the Tantric tradition and created Hatha Yoga, the physical yoga practice that we are looking to today for the physical practices we do, and we actually call it Hatha Yoga. Tantra came to the West by degrees. You had people who were visiting India and seeing some of the practices, and most of the time they were aversive. They saw things that were happening in Indian culture which were outside the range of acceptance for Westerners who were there, and even Chinese who were there. And so they reported back, but they didn't really understand what they were seeing. But in the 1800s, we started to have people who did serious investigations of Tantra and began to have some sympathy for the practice and understand its deeper philosophy and its deeper approaches. One of these primary guys, and this guy shades into the 1900s, is a guy named Sir John Woodruff. And he was the first guy who was a strong, what we might call an apologist for Tantra. He explained Tantra to Western audience. He was sympathetic to Western points of views, and he attempted to help people to understand Tantra and have sympathy for Tantra. And then we had this other character by the name of Pierre Bernard, who got labeled with the sobriquet, the Great Om. He got a lot of criticism for his practices, and he was taking Tantra into a secret society, which he called the Tantric Order of America, in the late 1890s in San Francisco, and then later on in New York City around after 1906. By the time we get to the 60s, things accelerate. Western society is more open, we're exploring sexuality. In that crucible, we get Tantra coming to the West as sacred sex. This really wasn't the tradition in India, but it was a way in which we could understand some of the tantric ideals, which was to use sexuality for transformation. In the tantric setting, you weren't really pursuing pleasure so much. You were just using the energetics of sexuality to move prana in the body and to change consciousness. That system, the more pure system, is now coming strongly into Western culture, partly because we got a dose of it with the Siddha Foundation that was started by Baba Muktananda. In the late part of Baba Muktananda's career, he, in secret settings, was actually doing some of these challenging sexual practices, but he was also using the wider kind of ambit of Tantra to help Western audiences. You know, mainly he was doing a lot of chanting work, but they were also supporting scholarship in Tantra and doing things like Hatha Yoga. But he gave birth to a whole group of individuals, some of which most viewers will probably know. People like John Friend, who studied with Guru Mai Chidvilasananda, who was a follower of Baba Muktananda, who was actually his lineage holder, his great teacher that he gave his Dharma to, his Dharma transmission. People like Douglas Brooks, Paul Mueller-Ortega, or Sally Kempton. Those people are high in the current yoga conversation, and they are giving us a clear idea of what Tantra is, and they're adapting it to modern Western culture. And all of these are forms of what we call Neo-Tantra. And Tantra is appearing in our culture. For those of us who are brave and want to follow a deeper path, those deeper paths are here, just like in Hatha Yoga. And then there are more philosophical paths, or paths which relate to practices like Hatha Yoga itself, things that we're more familiar with. So I hope that was helpful, a little sketch of how Tantra arrived in the West and how it exists in the West. And if you encounter Tantra when you're walking down the street, I hope it's something that it's comfortable for you to see. Blessings on your day. Take care. Bye.